It is not a negotiation if each sticks to one point and doesn't budge. That's not negotiation. If things don't work out, I'll do everything that the constitution of the nation allows. What kind of deal could it be where there are no conditions? Once somebody was even asking, should they not seek apology? And I said, yes, if they are magnanimous, they could. What I did in the past, there was nothing that was legally, constitutionally, morally wrong.
A deal means you get something in return. Victory in the court was certain.
I regret sometimes that, okay, I was released, but there is no learning for the nation because there is no judgment.
Sonam was okay to stay there till September. I was okay to continue the fight for another 6 to 7 months.
A deal would have happened in the first month, second month. They delayed it as much as they could.
It was the government who decided to retreat.
On every front, we had such strong evidences that they were all false or misunderstood. There were very difficult, traumatic things that I had to go through. My room was infested with ants. It bothered me for the first day, but by the second day, I made some ways of keeping them away.
Welcome back to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview. We take off from where we left last week. Our conversation with activist Sonam Wangchuk and his wife Gitanjali Angmo, who fought fearlessly to get her husband released from jail. She did not give up, but the government did and finally revoked Sonam Wangchuk's detention under the National Security Act. The detention has ended, but the battle is on. So what next? What lies ahead? What is Wangchuk's game plan? Let us find out in the second and concluding part of our conversation with Sonam Wangchuk and his wife Gitanjali Angmo in HT's weekly talk show, The Interview. You know, the apex body has said that their demands are non-negotiable, which is a little different from the give and take spirit that you are talking about. Are you, in one sense, working at, and again I'm using a strong word, cross purposes? And have you had any talks with the other leaders and worked on a joint strategy for the demands?
See, I don't think they have only said that nothing less than this or that. Mr. Lakruk had often said it is not a negotiation if each sticks to one point and doesn't budge. That's not negotiation. We are saying the same thing. I'm saying after a kind of victory where these words have more value. Negotiation means flexibility and give and take for the bigger purpose of a better tomorrow for the region, for the nation.
Have you had any talks with the other leaders and worked on a joint strategy for your demands?
In the recent days, yes, I've been talking to all the leaders, but even before I went to jail, we had similar discussions that we ultimately have to settle on a mutually acceptable solutions. But of course, before going into negotiation, if you just give away that I'll settle for this, then the negotiation starts from that point. So I understand that in a team, there are such stands taken of non-negotiability or of flexibility, especially for me coming out of a situation where they had to revoke. Having come out of that situation of a very position of strength, to be graceful and say, we still don't think that only one side should win is actually grace. And that's what I thought the positivity that I could bring.
I know my next question is something which you will contradict, and you should. But I will still ask, is your conciliatory note because of an alleged deal with the government?
What kind of deal could it be where there are no conditions on what I say, what I do, and I'm still saying I don't like protests and hunger strikes and padyatras, but if things don't work out, I'll do everything that the constitution of the nation allows peacefully. So if it is a deal, then this should be the first thing there. So I see it on the contrary as a gesture where they accept defeat. So once somebody was even asking, should they not seek apology? And I said, yes, if they are magnanimous, they could. So, what kind of deal? I have no ambitions. So, where do I stand to gain in this? And you will see in the coming months that we'll stand by the cause. And if that cause demands, and if the situation arises, we'll do everything that is possible.
And repeat what you did in the past?
Well, what I did in the past, there was nothing that was legally, constitutionally, morally wrong. I really want to look forward to a positive beginning. If nothing else works, then of course our nation provides this right. Constitution provides this right to peacefully express yourself. Why would I not make use of it?
Gitanjali, how would you react to what Sonam is saying? Would you ask him now, after what has happened, after what you and he have gone through, to do things differently? And secondly, how do you react? Again, I'm going to use the same word, the criticism or the perception that there is an alleged deal with the government.
Deal means you get something in return.
He got his release.
But
Yeah.
2 days later, I was to get it anyway,
In the Supreme
in
Court.
a way that you would have liked more, and we would have liked more. I regret sometimes that, okay, I was released, but there's no learning for the nation because there is no judgment.
Victory in the court was certain, if not in a week, in a month. And Sonam was okay to stay there till September. I was okay to continue the fight for another 6 to 7 months. So we were not in any disadvantageous position just because he was inside. We were growing, we were learning. But it was the government who decided to retreat.
A deal would have happened in the first month, second month, where I would say, I'll not do the same again. I can give you in writing. Please release me. Look at when it happened. They delayed it as much as they could, and it didn't bother me because I had made up my mind for all 12 months. It happened when we were at the hill of victory. So that's not when you make deals, when the other side surrenders. You understand? So that's the time for graciousness, magnanimity, not for deals. Why would anybody do such a thing when 2 days later you were going to get an order? On every front, we had such strong evidences that they were all false or misunderstood.
The deal would have happened if we had asked something for Hayal or for some position of power, which we haven't.
Yeah.
So on either side, there was no deal. There was graciousness. They did not ask any conditions to be imposed on Sonam. It was an unconditional release. From our side, there is nothing that we have asked. Even the land problem and the FCRA, we have such strong cases that we can win them in the courts. So we haven't asked for anything for ourselves personally or for our institutions.
So, do you see the government's move as a climb down in one sense?
I don't know. I want to believe they realize their errors or misunderstandings and want to really take a positive step. But many people tell me that they have no intentions of positive steps. They just wanted to wriggle out of a losing situation. I really don't want to believe that. I do believe they'll keep their word, their promise in the revocation letter, which says this is done to create an atmosphere of trust for a meaningful dialogue, for a resolution of the issue. We'll see. If they don't resolve and stick to the same things, then it is a problem. Then it was perhaps only to wriggle out of this legal situation and embarrassment. But if they follow it up by actually building trust and resolving the issue, then we will feel we have done the best because we didn't make it an ego issue. You did this to me, now I'll do this to you nationally in media and all that. We didn't believe because we have to see how the talks go. And if they totally fail, maybe we are forced to.
When there is a difficult issue, petty politicking is about going after, each other, but statesmanship is in allowing a gracious exit so that meaningful collaboration can ensue.
Gitanjali, Sonam says, if things don't resolve, if need be, I may do the same things all over again. What would your advice to him be?
No, I don't think he is saying that he will do the same things again. He is saying he will do what constitution allows.
And I'll be creative. I won't repeat
the
and
same
repeat
things.
the repeat. I'll do more effective things.
We always think out of the box. We don't repeat the same solutions.
Nothing that is wrong will be done.
But not ineffective things or not the same things which are predictable. We don't like to be predictable.
So, Gitanjali, what would you advise him?
As I had mentioned to you in my last interview, that I am more of a dialogue talks person. I'm no one to advise him. He's a very wise person. But my suggestion to him would be to move forward on this path of constructive dialogue and meaningful resolution and having milestones without losing sight of the final goal, which every region in India deserves, which is statehood, and an ecosystem like Ladakh deserves, which is constitutional safeguards. So, without losing sight of the final goal, my suggestion to him would be to have milestone based, moving forward towards that final goal. It was great what he did. The protests and the padyatras, they brought this focus to a national stage. But he would find out better ways to take this forward. And now, with this hand having been extended by the government, I think that very soon Ladakh will get what it truly deserves.
What about Sonam going on fasts? What would you advise him on that?
As I said, it serves the purpose of bringing it to the national stage, and between you and me, it is also great for his health, but if you truly want a win-win, and if the government has a problem, talking to you when you are on this protest mode, then it is not a right thing to continue doing the same thing.
The spirit will be the same.
Dialogue and discussion.
Paths may.
I mean, Ladakh's interests would never be sacrificed on any altar. But the evolution is when the means to that end are also evolve. So you cannot fall back on the same means.
I'll just assure you that Ladakh's interest and the nation's broader interests will always remain highest, and my personal interests, whether it's me, my person, or our institutions, will be always the lowest.
So, Sonam, if the government does not do what is expected, would you go back to fasting?
I will not reveal everything through an interview like this.
Let me ask you, what is your next step? What is your game plan, if I may use the term, in the days to come vis-a-vis greater autonomy for the region?
I will consult all the leaders and try to take all their opinions forward through the process that has already rolled. We'll study what are the possibilities of a peaceful resolution, what are the options that the constitution provides, what are the past practices, what are the precedences. All those we'll study and put forward as possible resolutions, and I'm sure they'll do on the other side too.
Before I wind up, let me ask you about your time in prison and, to quote you, the horrors unleashed on you. Tell me about that.
No. I won't go into horrors. At this time, I'm more about the positive things that came out. There were very difficult, traumatic things that I had to go through. But those are for another day. I don't want to start a new dawn with bitter, painful stories and all that. Yes, jail is good for nobody. It is a painful process, but I'm so happy that I could transform it into a great learning and growth opportunity. But there were many things that could have been better. I wouldn't like to dwell in those.
But was it mentally and physically taxing?
Not really, not really. Mentally, again, not that it wasn't, objectively speaking. In absolute terms, it was. Anybody would break down under those conditions. It has been a great learning opportunity for me. Same for Gitanjali, who was going through more troubles and tribulations outside. So I always say I was jailed in, she was jailed out. She had 3 times more challenges than I had, but we want to make it into a learning opportunity. Small people talk about their pain and bitterness. I don't have time for harping on the wrongs.
But having said that, if ever we get a chance, we do now know what can be done for reformation of jail, what can be done for reformation of judiciary, what can be done for reformation of what can be done for the reformation of governance. So the learnings would be put to good use.
Sonam, while on Gitanjali, who we know fought single handedly, did you ever know she had so much fire in her? In fact, you said that there were lots of things you discovered about her. Tell me that side of Gitanjali that you did not know.
This strength to be alone in a city like Delhi, which she's not from, running from pillar to post, collecting all documents, evidences between Delhi and Jodhpur, between court and people in Ladakh, to keep the issue alive so that the focus remains on the case for the nation, and strategize with the lawyers. We had amazing lawyers. I was completely in total isolation, barred from giving out anything. So, under those conditions, the way she coordinated everything and made things meet, whether from me or from the lawyers or from the people in Leh, all these things, I am totally amazed.
On a lighter note, you looked at the behavior of ants in jail and you also asked her to get you a book on ants.
Yes, yes. My room was infested with ants. It bothered me for the first day, but by the second day, I made some ways of keeping them away and thought I could learn more about ant behavior. I would watch them, the crumbs from my food that would fall. One ant would come and discover it and try to take it. And I would think, okay, it's taking its booty, or, what it has won. Another ant would come, and I would think now this one was going to snatch it from the first one. No, it would come and help that one to take it. And a third one and a fourth one would come, and all of them would take it together to their nest. Nobody was about oneself, the ants. They were always about the community. The worker ants who we see are there to die. They die in hundreds, they get crumpled, but they never worry about that. They all collaborate so beautifully.
My last question is to Sonam Wangchuk. Do you think the ordeal is over? Or has the war, and I know you're going to contradict the word war, just begun?
I want to believe that it's over and we are stepping into something very positive, but I want to be prepared for the other possibility that you mentioned. I will not be sleeping happily in this belief that everything is finished, but I will always act in very positive ways to make it possible to have that resolution. But yes, if it doesn't, we will remain prepared for anything that it takes.
It would be unfair if I don't give the last word to Gitanjali. Sonam, you struggled, but she was the face of the fight. So, after your release, now it is Gitanjali and Sonam. Till you didn't go to jail, it was Sonam, and everyone wanted to talk to you. How is it, Gitanjali? How does it feel now to share public space with your husband, given that you've always been a person in the background?
Change is the only constant, and I enjoyed my work, which was in the background. Now that it has come to this, and if my sharing the platform with him helps anything, whether helping him in the background or sharing the stage with him, the important thing is to move confidently towards a shared vision.
Sonam, would you like to add to that?
Yes, that we have always been together in the struggles, but she wouldn't come in front. And now that she is known as the one who has been struggling and fighting and winning, I'm sure she'll participate both in institutional building and in resolving things. On many people ask us, will you take political positions? Will you launch a political party? We always say that if we do, that will be two people adding to maybe a positive politics. But what does two people mean? So we'll be more into grooming leadership. We would like to change this culture of leadership and politics from what it has become to something that is graceful and divinely, which is all about the welfare.
So rather than we going into politics, we would like to create 1,000 statesmen through our School of Social and Political Leadership.
Gitanjali, you've just answered my next question. But however, I will still ask, will you ever consider joining politics?
So as of now, the plan is that we start our School of Social and Political Leadership, but we are always open to a possibility where, again, if the divine chooses you to be an instrument for something in future, we will not be in the rat race. We have never been in the rat race. Just as it is wrong to be in the rat race for something, it is also wrong to not take up if the divine chooses you as an instrument in the future. As of today, there are no plans of it. But if there is an occasion where the divine chooses you to be a part of something, and which falls in the realm of politics, we will not shy from it.
You wanted to add something, Sonam?
I really haven't ever been interested in the politics of it, particularly because at this present time it is not very clean. I have no interest, but I would do everything to make it clean, like she said, by grooming thousands of young statesmen who can together make it clean. And if I have to, which I don't see any chances of, then it will be the biggest sacrifice in my life. People tell me you have made many sacrifices. I say none of it is a sacrifice because I did it lovingly. I wanted to do for children's education, and so on, environment and so on. This may never happen, but if it happens, then it will be the biggest sacrifice, which I would call a sacrifice.
Politics is not our ikigai or our swadharma.
Both of you just proved me wrong because I thought both of you would say a flat no. But however, I wish you all the best and hope that your endeavors bring some positive results in the future. Gitanjali Angmo and Sonam Wangchuk, thank you very much for your time and thank you for answering most of my questions.
Thank you very much for this and for all your efforts earlier to bring truth to the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you.